vehicle is supersonic.
Stage separation confirmed. Dragon, separation confirmed.
Stage 1 is transonic. Landing legs have deployed. And Falcon 9 has landed.
Good evening. You are looking at a live view of our Falcon 9 rocket awaiting liftoff at 12 a.m. Eastern Time from Space Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. Welcome to our live launch coverage of the Astranis One-to-Many mission. My name is Somi Srivastava, and I'm a structures engineer here at SpaceX, joining you from Hawthorne, California. Today, we are launching 4 satellites to a geosynchronous transfer orbit on behalf of our customer, Astranis. Astranis is calling this mission One-to-Many because this launch will grow their fleet of geostationary satellites from 1 to 5. One of the satellites launching today is Astranis' UtilitySat, the world's first geosatellite capable of performing multiple operational communications missions. The first customer for UtilitySat will be APCO in Mexico, and the satellite will serve a variety of customers for shorter duration missions throughout its life on orbit. The other 3 satellites are split across 3 of Astranis' customers, with 2 satellites, NuView Alpha and NuView Bravo, supporting Anuvu, a connectivity provider for planes and ships. And the 4th satellite, Aguila, will be the first ever communications satellite dedicated to the people of the Philippines. Today's launch marks SpaceX's 129th mission of 2024, and what has proved to be quite a busy year. But it's not over yet. We still have several more launches planned before we ring in the new year. Be sure to follow @SpaceX on X for up-to-the-minute launch updates. At LC40, both the vehicle and range are green, and we're on track for an on-time launch. Weather is looking great with only a 5% chance of weather violation. While the countdown continues, let's take a moment to meet the vehicle taking our payload to orbit today. Falcon 9 is a 2-stage rocket developed and manufactured by SpaceX, known for its safe, reliable, and cost-effective access to space. It's also the first and currently the only orbital-class rocket that is capable of reflight. Starting at the top of the vehicle is the payload fairing, a protective shell that encases the payload being sent to space. Made up of 2 halves, the fairing will separate and jettison away from the vehicle once Falcon 9 reaches space. Today's fairing halves will be flying for their 22nd and 12th times and will be recovered by our recovery vessel, Bob, after launch. And here's a photo of the Astranis satellites being encapsulated in that fairing just a few days ago. Continuing down the vehicle, we have the second stage. The second stage is powered by a single Merlin vacuum engine, or MVac, which is optimized to perform in the vacuum of space. Below that is the first stage, which contains 8 engines arranged around one center engine held in place by a structure called the octaweb. Each of these 9 Merlin 1D engines delivers about 190,000 pounds of thrust at sea level, which gives Falcon 9 a combined 1.7 million pounds of thrust. The Falcon 9 first stage is also equipped with 4 landing legs that deploy just before landing to allow for vertical touchdown on a drone ship or a landing pad. The booster supporting today's mission is flying for its 17th time. It previously supported NASA's Crew 5 mission, 2 NASA cargo resupply missions, CRS-28 and NG-20, as well as missions for Inmarsat, Intelsat, the U.S. Space Force, and Optus. The same booster has also launched 9 Starlink missions. After stage separation, it'll head back to Earth, this time targeting a landing on our drone ship, a Shortfall of Gravitas, which is currently stationed in the Atlantic Ocean. Now, as the countdown continues, let's take a moment to hear from our customer for today's mission, Astranis.
Our first satellite was the first of its kind. Small, low-cost, high orbit. From higher orbits, you only need 1 satellite.
You don't need hundreds, you don't need thousands, you just need 1. But for us, putting up 1 was just the beginning.
We are Astranis.
Our first product, the MicroGEO, connects the unconnected.
The satellites we build are points of national pride.
And each one of them connects millions of people to affordable, low-cost internet.
But our mission doesn't stop with comms.
And it doesn't stop with GEO.
We're working with Space Force to bring resiliency to the GPS satellite system.
We're also working to connect and protect astronauts on the moon.
And maybe someday we'll even build a habitat that they'll call home. We're the only company building this today. Why? Because space is hard and high orbits are harder. The radiation environment fries normal hardware in days or even hours, and medium-class rockets can't even get you all the way there.
We had to invent an entirely new class of spacecraft. It took us years, but after countless radiation tests and revisions, we made it happen.
That's why we're ramping up production right here in America.
We've built 5 satellites, sold 12, and plan to launch over 100 satellites by 2030. That's more than the rest of the industry combined.
We are Astranis. We invented low-cost, high-orbit satellites.
We're building the future.
And we're just getting started.
Falcon 9's primary objective today is to launch 4 Astranis satellites to a geosynchronous transfer orbit, or GTO. After liftoff, about a minute into flight, the rocket will hit max Q, or maximum dynamic pressure, where the vehicle is continuing to gain speed as it passes through the thick lower atmosphere. After about 2.5 minutes, Falcon 9 will arrive at its second major flight milestone, main engine cutoff, or MECO. And then immediately following MECO, the first and second stages separate. Following stage separation, the MVAC engine will light during second engine start, or SES-1, on stage 2 to continue carrying the satellites to their intended orbit. A little less than a minute later, the payload fairing will separate, exposing the Astranis satellites to space for the first time. Meanwhile, the first stage will perform an entry burn as it re-enters the atmosphere, slowing down to reduce heat and stress on the vehicle. About 1 minute after the first stage entry burn ends, the second stage will shut down its MVAC engine, known as Second Engine Cutoff 1, or SECO-1. After that, the second stage will coast for about 18 minutes before reigniting its MVAC engine to finalize the orbit for payload deployment.
Falcon 9 tanks are pressing for strong back retract.
Coming up shortly, the transporter erector, also known as the strong back, or TE, as you just heard over the nets, will retract away from Falcon. The TE is the large truss structure you see there standing right next to the rocket. First, we'll see the clamp arms opening around the second stage, and then the TE will slowly pull away from the rocket. And so all of that will be coming up in about 15 seconds from now.
Strong back lower has started.
The strongback is designed to transport, raise, and support Falcon 9 at the launch pad using umbilicals or flexible lines to route the vehicle's fluids, power, and telemetry from the ground systems to the rocket and payload until Falcon 9 switches to internal power and clears the pad. You can see those clamp arms have begun to open. Clamp arms are fully open, and we should see the strong back beginning to pull away from the rocket shortly. Now, at this point in the countdown, both the first and second stages are nearly fully loaded with 1 million pounds of rocket-grade kerosene fuel and liquid oxygen. Both the first stage and second stage should finish propellant loading about a minute apart from each other, with the first stage finishing up at around the T-3 minute mark, and the second stage finishing at around the T-2 minute mark. While the countdown continues, let's take a moment to meet the
Stage 1 LOX load is complete.
Good call out there.
Stage 1
The first stage is fully loaded with good call out there. Now at T-minus 60 seconds, Falcon 9 will enter startup, and that means that the rocket's autonomous internal flight computers will have taken over the launch countdown. Then, just inside of T-minus 2 seconds, we light the 9 M1D first stage engines for liftoff. Weather is still looking green and with a really clear night, and the range is ready to support our T0 of 12 a.m. Eastern Time. So with that, we are proceeding into the last few minutes of terminal count, with LOX load on the second stage coming up in just a few seconds.
Stage 2 LOX load is complete.
Great call out there.
Ground gas closeouts.
That white cloud you see is us venting the TE LOX line, which is completely expected.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
There you just heard that call for F9 startup, which means the rocket's autonomous internal flight computers have taken over the launch countdown.
LD, go for launch.
Great news, the launch director has given the final go for launch. So at T-minus 39 seconds, all systems are go for the launch of Falcon 9.
T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 15. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Mission abort.
Launch abort is running.
So we just heard a call out for an abort, and we are standing by to get more updates from the team. Prior to this point, the launch was going smoothly. The team saw no issues as we loaded propellants, all system tests and checkouts looked good, and everything was go for an on-time launch. At this time, it's too early to speculate on a potential root cause, and I'm hearing from our teams we likely won't have more insight in the next few minutes. So at this point, we are going to end the webcast and allow our teams to focus on troubleshooting. It'll take some time to figure out exactly what happened, but keep an eye on our website and our social accounts, and we'll share information as it becomes available. Thanks for tuning in, and as always, we appreciate your interest in SpaceX and your ongoing support.